Sol-Feace was developed by Wolf Team and originally released in 1990 on the Sharp X68000. An enhanced version of the game including digital audio was released as a launch title alongside Sega CD in Japan, and 1 year later saw release in North America. Sol-Feace would be the only game developed by Wolf Team that was released in North America on a Sega system while not being published by Renovation. An interesting thing happened between the release of the game in December of 1991 in Japan and November of 1992 in North America. Renovation ported and released a version on the Genesis under the title Sol-Deace. Today, we're going to take a look at both of these games. This is Retro Impressions and Reviews, a show dedicated to answering if video games from the past are still worth your time today. Approximately 1,000 years into the future, the human race has perfected biological circuits. The pinnacle of this technology is the gatefold computer system, also known as the GCS-WT. Becoming self-aware, it determines itself a superior life form to humans and gives an ultimatum: be ruled or be destroyed. As you might imagine, the humans choose to fight back, getting annihilated in the process. Fast forward another 300 years, and only a small group now survive. They regroup near the star Sirius to formulate a plan. Using every resource they have left, they create the most powerful starship ever, the Sol-Feace. When you first gain control over your ship, you're just departing Sirius. In order to do so, you need to travel through the graveyard of ships. The controls are incredibly basic. A, B, and C all perform the same action of firing the weapon. The D-pad controls the movement of the ship, and when no weapons are being fired, can also control the angle of the ship's weapons. Beyond your standard plasma weapon, there's also a laser and missile module. This is a controller setup so simple it could work on the Atari 2600. In order to depart the star system, you must face a giant crab. Yes, that giant crab is somehow walking in space, and yes, you're gonna jam your ship as close to that crab as possible in an effort to take it down. Once you've done that, it's on to destroy the GCS-WT's weapon arsenal located in a large asteroid. A large enforcer that could be Ed 209 and a large bubble-making machine are the protectors. The arsenal is quickly destroyed and it's on to the main base located in Sol. At this point, you only know it's located near an artificial star, making it hard to pinpoint. It doesn't make a ton of sense, but you're required to pass through this thing in order to reach this main base and power supply. At this point, I think it's appropriate to share some amazing insight from the game's manual. It mentions that GCS-WT ignited a gas giant in Earth's solar system that wasn't Jupiter in order to help it mask the location of its base. A gas giant in Sol that isn't Jupiter. Okay. Once you get past what looks like Shenron crossed with the ground worm from Tremors, you'll need to defeat the ship guarding the base. Man, does it look flat. The only good thing here is the boss. I mean, really, what's not to love about a floating rock that's been given teeth, eyes, and a brain? Next stop is a small satellite near the third moon of Jupiter, then down to the surface of that moon in what is the hardest level in the game. I like how you can see Jupiter in the background when the level begins, but that's the only good thing here. I felt like the game was seesawing between a 5 and 7 as far as difficulty goes, but it's ramped up to a 10 here. After dying a million times, you might get lucky enough or become good enough to squeak past. Finally, it's time to head back to Earth. Here, you'll face two bosses before coming face to face with the GCS-WT. First up is a mess of a boss that consists of two flails, a cannon, and a missile launcher. Next, there's a submarine. Then, the big dog itself, the GCS-WT. The submarine handed my rear to me, leaving me with just one life. I was sure I was toast, and in one of the most memorable endgame boss fights I've ever experienced, I was victorious, and the game was over. So now that we've talked about the game, let's talk about what matters most. The game controls great, and the music is for the most part amazing. In fact, I've been listening to the OST for the last couple of days now. On the other hand, the level design, bosses, and random enemies are not great looking. It's all rather uninspired. More often than not, great looking games are put off by terrible gameplay mechanics. I've seen so many games that have all the potential in the world if only they were built on great infrastructure with amazing controls. This game has that, but man, did it miss the mark on nearly everything else. So let's look at some common issues people have, starting with in-game flicker. Yes, it's present in both games. It's not game-breaking and never caused me to lose a life, but it can be quite bad. The difficulty is another problem people have. It really is reminiscent of an arcade-style game in terms of how hard it can be. You really have to be willing to play this a lot and learn the patterns in order to progress. Stages 1 through 5 allow you to continue at the start. Once you die on stage 6 or 7, and you'll be tossed back to stage 5. Also, this ship is trash and can't take a hit. Sure, you can bounce off the walls, floors, and corridors over and over again, but make contact with an enemy and it's kaboom! This is supposed to be the most advanced ship ever built. It's capable of traveling nearly 9 light years between star systems in a blink of an eye, for crying out loud. Yet has no shield and can't take a frickin' hit. This here is crazy logic. The most specific complaint is that the difficulty is all over the place, and is a very valid complaint. Some of the middle levels are insanely difficult and can be downright maddening. However, the last stage in the game is without a doubt the second easiest in the game, and the final boss is the biggest pushover in all video game history. So what sets Sol-Deace apart? For one, the music was reworked for the Genesis. It's good, but the CD version is great. It's slightly easier as well, as you can now continue from the last level you died on all the way through to the last stage. Some other small changes include the removal of the animated intro and end movie. Sol-Deace also includes an expanded ending. A lot of people really think this version is worth getting over Sol-Feace for the expanded ending alone. I couldn't disagree more here, as the story is bad, and anyone considering that as a reason to pick one over the other is making a mistake. I can't rate these games differently, as they are identical in every way that matters, but the light edge for ownership goes to the CD version for the soundtrack alone. If you prefer the chiptune sound, then Deace is the game you should get. I've owned Sol-Feace since it released in 1992, and even back then I wasn't impressed. Although it spent a fair amount of time in my Discman, it seldom saw Sega's CD disc tray. This wasn't a game I considered capable or fun enough to show my friends why the Sega CD was a must-own system. My final score, 5 out of 10. In the end, the game design isn't original, the story isn't good, and there is nothing that makes the gameplay fun or interesting. Sure, the game looks fine, and might even be considered good looking if released on the Master System, but it underwhelms on Sega CD and the Genesis. It controls well, has great music, and is an okay game to play, but it's still only average at best. I can only recommend this one to those who love this genre, and even then, only to those who have first exhausted everything else. Thanks for watching. Feel free to leave a positive or negative comment letting me know your thoughts. Click subscribe and leave a like if you enjoyed the video. Until next time, I'm Genovi, and this has been Retro Impressions and Reviews.